I definitely wasn't expecting it to blow up the way that it did. Like, I knew people in our community obviously would see it, but I definitely didn't know that I was going to gain the traction that it did. And sorry, you said, how do I feel now, like a couple months later with our negotiations?
Yeah, and the focus of a lot of that comment was about the leadership. So how are you feeling about the leadership?
Yeah, I mean, nothing has changed like since then, but I feel really confident in our PA and where we are with like internally with our players and the future.
That confidence right there, that's the sound of someone who knows they're heading into a battle they might not win. Nafisa Collier just told us the negotiations blew up way bigger than expected, and now we're sitting here days away from what could be the first WNBA work stoppage in league history. Because as of today, January 31st, 2025, the collective bargaining agreement deadline has passed, and we're entering what's called status quo. And if you don't know what that means, you need to pay attention, because it's not good news for anyone waiting to see Caitlyn Clark back on the court.
And an update now. It goes on to say Breanna Stewart, the vice president of WNBA Players Association, said Thursday that the league and players union will not agree to another collective bargaining agreement extension at Friday's deadline. And then in both parties would instead enter a period of status quo. Now, the WNBA and WBPA previously agreed to 2 extensions for a current deal, which gave us 30 days, and the one that we on.
15 months? They've been negotiating for 15 months and still don't have a deal. Think about that timeline. This started back in October 2023, before Caitlyn Clark's final college season, before the Fever became must-watch television, before the league saw its ratings explode, and in all that time, through 2 separate extensions that gave them an extra 60 days total, the owners and players still can't agree on terms. Now Breanna Stewart, vice president of the WNBA Players Association, confirmed on Thursday that they're not accepting another extension. The deadline hit at 11:59 p.m. Friday night, and instead of celebration, we got silence.
The working conditions of the current CBA negotiations would be maintained, and the league and union can continue negotiation. But because the CBA expired without a replacement and the agreement prohibits either side from engaging in a work stoppage, status quo opens the door for a strike initiated by the players or a lockout initiated by the owners, which means that this is what it's heading towards.
Here's what status quo actually means, and why it should concern every fan under status quo. The working conditions from the expired CBA stay in place temporarily while negotiations continue. Sounds harmless, right? Wrong. Because status quo also opens the door for either side to initiate a work stoppage. The players can strike, the owners can lock them out, and according to ESPN sources, while the league hasn't been considering a lockout, the players absolutely voted on strike authorization back in December. 98% of WNBA players voted yes, only 2% said no. That's not a close call, that's unity.
Free agency took place January the 11th to February 1st, but that was a great time period for the WNBA, at least for the content-wise. We was getting updates about Kelsey Mitchell. The Indiana Fever was landing big-time players, but as of right now, despite the uncertainty, league sources believe both sides will get a deal done, and there will be a 2026 season. Because let's say if this wasn't on the table, we'll be talking about free agency. That's what we'll be talking about right now these next coming days.
But here's where it gets complicated. We should be talking about free agency right now. Kelsey Mitchell's contract status with the Indiana Fever, Lexi Hull's future, whether Sophie Cunningham stays in Phoenix, the expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries should have happened in early December, just like it did last year. Free agency should be running from mid-January through early February. Instead, we're in limbo. No draft lottery, no free agency period, no expansion draft. The entire offseason calendar is frozen because both sides are dug in on their positions. And the longer this drags out, the more likely we're looking at a condensed offseason where everything, the expansion draft, free agency, and the college draft, all has to happen within a few weeks instead of being spread across months like normal.
Nika Vice President and Nafisa Collier told ESPN that they are proud of the union's solidarity and vowed to keep working for a transformational agreement despite their frustrations with the process, man. Now, the current CBA agreement is scheduled to expire at 11:59 tonight. Not tomorrow, not the day after. Today is the damn day. Now, the WNBA PA opted out of previous negotiations, and which was in October. Now, it goes on to say, we know what we're asking for. That was Nafisa Collier told ESPN. We know that it's too much. Like they're saying, we know it's not too much. My bad, y'all, but it is too much. Aguma K stated, this interview has been edited for the full length of clarity. Now, ESPN stated over the past few months, more information has been reported about the league and the players' proposal, with numbers and information changing frequently. But as of right now, how would you describe the state of negotiations? Now, Nafisa Collier said, obviously, we hope that we would be a lot further along than what we are, because it's been about 15 months.
Now listen to what Nafisa Collier said in that ESPN interview that dropped yesterday. She's claiming their proposal is thoughtful and reasonable, that they know what they're asking for isn't too much, but here's what she's not saying. The players want 50% revenue sharing, 50%, in a league that, according to the owners, lost $40 million last season. The league's counteroffer, a revenue-sharing model that phases in gradually, not an immediate 50-50 split. The players also want fully guaranteed contracts across the board, elimination of the core designation that limits free agency, and substantially higher minimum salaries. The league's current max salary is around $241,000. The minimum is about $64,000. Compare that to the NBA, where the minimum is over $1 million and the max can exceed $50 million, and you see why players feel underpaid. But the league's position is that you can't split revenue 50-50 when there isn't enough revenue to split. This is Collier's third CBA negotiation. She was part of the 2020 deal that got players better travel conditions and salary increases. She's seen progress before, but she's also saying this is the most transformational era in league history, and the progress doesn't match what players have built. And that last part is interesting, because it raises a question nobody wants to ask out loud.
The players feel really united right now. We're waiting for the league to come back, and we're not going to accept a bad deal. We're waiting for the league to come back and respond to our thoughtful and reasonable proposal. Nika stated, Fee's right. I'm really proud of how professional and really patient we've been as a collective. But quite frankly, this is my third CBA that I've been a part of. So I feel like I've been a part of 3 different eras, and this is by far the most transformational era. But the progress that we've seen, or lack of thereof, does not match what the players have built.
Did the players build this, or did Caitlyn Clark? Because that's the uncomfortable truth sitting in the middle of these negotiations. The 2024 season saw attendance jump 23%. Television ratings more than doubled for nationally televised games. The Indiana Fever went from playing in front of half-empty arenas to selling out every venue they visited. Caitlyn Clark's rookie season generated an estimated economic impact of over $300 million for the league and its teams. One player, one season. So when Nafisa Collier says the players built this league, she's partially right. Veterans like Breanna Stewart, Aja Wilson, and Sabrina Ionescu laid the foundation. But the explosion in 2024, the mainstream attention, the sold-out arenas, that's directly tied to Clark's arrival. And here's why that matters for these negotiations. The owners know that growth might not be sustainable if it's built around one player. What happens if Clark gets injured? What happens if casual fans lose interest after the novelty wears off? The owners want to see multiple years of this growth before they commit to revenue sharing that could bankrupt teams if the bubble bursts.
Of negotiations when she runs unrivaled. You run a competitive league. It will benefit your league if the strike happened. Now, to me, another reason this could be going to status quo is because we know everybody did not vote to go on strike. 98% of the league didn't. 2% did not vote. So that could be why we're headed to a status quo as of right now. But guys, get down in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts about this one. I will keep tracking this. Keep them bills on. Until next time, man, check the haters off. I'm out of here, baby. Peace out.
And then there's the Napheesa Collier problem that nobody's talking about. She's a vice president of the Players Association, sitting at the negotiating table, fighting for WNBA players' rights. That's her job. But she's also the face of Unrivaled, a 3-on-3 league that directly competes with the WNBA for players, sponsors, and attention. Unrivaled pays players over $200,000 for an 8-week season. That's nearly as much as a WNBA max contract for less than half the work. So you've got someone running a rival league, a league that benefits if the WNBA season gets delayed or canceled, sitting at the negotiating table for WNBA players. Does that create a conflict of interest? Because if these negotiations drag into March or April and training camps get delayed, suddenly Unrivaled has more time to establish itself without competing against WNBA games. Players who might have skipped Unrivaled to rest for the WNBA season suddenly have time to play in both leagues. That's good for Collier's business. Is it good for the WNBA? Now, to be fair, league sources told ESPN they still believe both sides will get a deal done and there will be a 2026 season. Nobody wants a work stoppage. The players know a strike costs them paychecks they can't afford to lose. The owners know a canceled season destroys the momentum they spent 28 years building. But confidence and reality are two different things. Here's what makes this particularly messy. The players feel disrespected. They're watching the league pull in record revenue, over $200 million in 2024, and they're still flying commercial to some games, while NBA players have chartered flights for every trip. They're still dealing with substandard locker room facilities in some arenas. They're still making a fraction of what male athletes in comparable leagues earn. From their perspective, this is the moment to strike. The league has leverage now with mainstream attention. If they don't capitalize on this moment, when will they? But the owners are looking at the balance sheets. Yes, revenue hit $200 million, but operating costs are high. The league still relies on NBA subsidies to stay afloat. Teams in smaller markets like Connecticut and Indiana can't sustain the same salary structures as teams in larger markets like New York and Los Angeles. And the new media rights deal, while better than the previous one, still doesn't generate NBA-level money. The WNBA's media rights deal is worth about $200 million over multiple years. The NBA's is worth $76 billion. That's not a typo. $76 billion with a B. So when players demand 50% revenue sharing, owners are calculating whether their teams can survive that split. And in markets like Connecticut, where the Sun have struggled with attendance despite being competitive, that math doesn't work. You can't pay players 50% of revenue if 50% of revenue means your team operates at a loss every single season. The status quo period is essentially a game of chicken. Both sides are waiting to see who blinks first. The players have strike authorization. The owners have the ability to lock them out. Neither side wants to be the one that cancels the season, but both sides are willing to let it get close to that point to gain leverage. And the clock is ticking. The 2026 season is supposed to start in mid-May. Training camps need to open in late April. The college draft needs to happen in mid-April. Free agency needs to be resolved by late March. The expansion draft for Golden State needs to happen before free agency. We're looking at a compressed timeline where everything has to happen in rapid succession, and we still don't have a CBA. Every day that passes without a deal makes the logistics more complicated. Teams can't plan their rosters. Free agents can't make decisions about their futures. College players entering the draft don't know which teams have which picks. The entire league is in suspended animation. And here's the thing about negotiations that drag on this long, they get personal. After 15 months of back and forth, this isn't just about revenue sharing and contract structures anymore. It's about respect. It's about power. It's about who controls the future direction of the league. The players feel like they've been patient, that they've made reasonable proposals, and the league keeps moving the goalposts. The owners feel like the players are demanding financial terms that don't match economic reality. So where does this end? One of three ways. First option, somebody blinks. Either the players accept less than 50% revenue sharing, or the owners agree to a more aggressive phase-in of revenue sharing than they're comfortable with. Both sides compromise, nobody's happy, but there's a deal. Second option, we get a work stoppage. Either a player strike or an owner lockout. The season gets delayed, maybe canceled entirely, and both sides lose. Third option, and this is the one nobody's talking about, the league fractures. Players with options, stars like Brianna Stewart or Aja Wilson, start exploring overseas opportunities or alternative leagues like Unrivaled full-time. The WNBA continues, but without its biggest names, and the momentum from 2024 evaporates. That third option sounds extreme, but it's not impossible. If you're a top-tier WNBA player and Unrivaled is offering you $200,000 for 8 weeks, and European leagues are offering you $300,000 for a season, and the WNBA is offering you $240,000 for 6 months with uncertain working conditions, what do you choose? The only reason most players choose the WNBA is because it's the Premier League, the one with the most visibility and the best competition. But if that visibility comes with disrespect and inadequate pay, how long before players start making different calculations? The owners know this. They know they're not just negotiating with the Players Association, they're negotiating against Unrivaled, against European leagues, against every alternative option that's emerged as women's basketball has grown. They can't lowball players anymore, because players have leverage now, but they also can't commit to financial terms that bankrupt franchises. It's a genuine dilemma. So what happens next? We wait. Status quo means negotiations continue without a deadline. Both sides can take their time, but the practical deadline is approaching fast. Mid-March at the latest, if they want anything resembling a normal offseason. And if we hit mid-March without a deal, start preparing for a very different kind of WNBA season, one that might not happen at all. The question you have to ask yourself is this: who's being unreasonable here? Are the players asking for too much too fast, demanding 50% of revenue in a league that's still building financial stability? Or are the owners being cheap, refusing to properly compensate the athletes who are finally bringing mainstream attention to women's basketball? Because depending on how you answer that question, you're going to have very different opinions about who's responsible if this season gets canceled. Drop your take in the comments. And if you want to stay updated as this situation develops, because it's going to develop fast over the next few weeks, hit that subscribe button. This isn't over, not even close.